At Jefferson High, most people noticed him, but not in the way he wanted. He wasn't the loud kid cracking jokes in the hallway, or the star athlete with a crowd trailing behind him after practice. He was the one who moved quietly, like he was trying not to leave a trace. Hood up, earbuds in, eyes down. Just another shadow slipping through the noise of slamming lockers and shouting teammates. His name wasn't shouted in pep rallies or scribbled in yearbook dedications. Teachers sometimes stumbled over it during roll call, but the other students, they knew who he was. Not because he talked much, he barely did, but because there was something about the way he carried himself. Calm, watchful, like he was always listening, even when he seemed lost in his own world. He lived with his grandmother in a small brick house on the east side of town, where the streetlights flickered more than they stayed on. She worked nights folding laundry at the hospital, her hands rough from decades of scrubbing other people's messes clean. He'd make her tea before she left and leave it steaming on the counter with a note. Stay warm. Love you. No grand gestures. Just quiet care, the kind that doesn't need an audience. School wasn't easy, but it wasn't the worst part of his day either. He kept his head down, did his work, and never caused trouble. Trouble, unfortunately, had a habit of finding him anyway. It started small, just whispers at first. A snicker when he walked into the gym. A muttered comment about his shoes, scuffed at the toes from walking 2 miles each way because the bus stop was too far, and his grandma's car hadn't started in months. He ignored it. He'd been taught that some fires go out faster when you don't feed them. But then came Tyler. Tyler wasn't just popular. He was the kind of kid adults called a natural leader, even when he was being cruel. Star linebacker, student council rep, always smiling for the camera, always surrounded by a rotating group of guys who laughed a little too hard at his jokes. He had that easy confidence that came from never being told no, from always getting the benefit of the doubt. And for reasons no one could quite explain, he'd decided this quiet kid was fair game. At first, it was just shoulder bumps in the hallway. Accidental, of course. Then came the locker slams. He'd wait until the coast was clear, then shove the kid into the metal door hard enough to rattle the hinges. Oops, he'd say, grinning like it was all a big misunderstanding. You good, man? The kid never answered, never pushed back, just straightened his shirt, adjusted his backpack, and kept walking. That silence seemed to annoy Tyler more than any comeback could have. It was like throwing punches into fog, no resistance, no satisfaction. The locker room became the main stage. After football practice, while the coaches were still reviewing plays in the office, Tyler would linger near the showers, making loud comments about how the kids smelled like old gym socks or probably never seen a real pair of Nikes. His friends would laugh on cue, egging him on. Sometimes they'd steal his towel or toss his gym clothes into the dirty laundry bin. Once they even poured water into his sneakers. Still, the kid said nothing. Didn't glare, didn't complain to teachers. Just cleaned up, changed quickly, and left before anyone else. But silence doesn't mean nothing's happening inside. Every night, after his grandma fell asleep in her recliner with the TV humming softly, he'd slip into the backyard. No fancy gym, no punching bag, just a patch of cracked concrete and a rusted chain-link fence. There, under the dim glow of a neighbor's porch light, he'd move, slow at first, then faster. Arms slicing through the air, feet pivoting on worn sneakers, body twisting through motions so practiced they felt like breathing. He'd been doing this since he was 9. His uncle, a quiet man with a Marine tattoo on his forearm and a voice like gravel, had taught him. Fighting ain't about anger, he'd said one summer evening, adjusting the kid's stance with firm hands. It's about control, about knowing when to move, and when not to. His uncle never pushed him to show off, never told him to prove anything to anyone. Real strength, he'd say, is walking away when you know you could win, but choosing peace instead. So he walked away. Again and again, but Tyler mistook that peace for weakness. One Tuesday, after a grueling weight session, the locker room was nearly empty. The coaches had stepped out for a staff meeting. Steam still curled from the showers. The kid was alone at his locker, swapping his damp shirt for a dry one, when he heard footsteps behind him. Still dressing like you shop at Goodwill? Tyler's voice cut through the quiet, sharp and mocking. The kid didn't turn. just kept buttoning his shirt. Tyler stepped closer. "You ever gonna talk? Or you just mute?" No answer. That's when Tyler reached out and snatched the phone off the bench beside him. It wasn't new. Cracked screen, duct tape around the battery, but it was his lifeline. His only way to call his grandma after school, to text his uncle when he needed a ride, to listen to music that drowned out the noise of the world. "Maybe your grandma needs a new microwave," Tyler said, holding the phone up like it was a toy. "Bet this'll get her one." He raised it high, fingers curling like he was about to slam it onto the concrete floor. For the first time in months, the kid looked him dead in the eyes. There was no shouting, no wild lunge, just a stillness so deep it seemed to pull the air out of the room. "Put it down," he said. His voice was low, calm, but it carried like a warning bell. Tyler laughed, but it sounded forced. His grip tightened on the phone, but his arm didn't move. Something in the kid's stare had shifted. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was certainty. And in that split second of hesitation, the kid moved, not with rage, but with precision. One step forward, a twist of the wrist, just like his uncle had shown him. And the phone dropped cleanly into his waiting palm. Tyler stumbled back, rubbing his arm, eyes wide with something that looked a lot like shock. The kid didn't say another word. Just slipped the phone into his pocket, zipped his bag, and walked out of the locker room like nothing had happened. But everything had. By the next morning, the story had spread through the school like wildfire, not because the kid bragged, he didn't tell a soul, but because Tyler's friends had seen it. And for the first time, the guy who always had the upper hand looked shaken. People started watching the quiet kid differently, not with pity but with curiosity. Who was he really? And what else was he capable of? He didn't notice the stares, didn't care about the whispers. He just kept showing up, hood up, headphones on, moving through the halls like a ghost who refused to fade. But ghosts don't usually leave footprints. And this one? He was just getting started. The next morning at Jefferson High felt different. Not in a way anyone could point to, but in the way the air gets heavy before a storm. Word had gotten around about what happened in the locker room. Not the full story, of course. Just enough. Tyler tried to smash his phone, and the quiet kid stopped him without even raising his voice. People didn't talk about it loudly. No one posted videos or made memes, but in the hallways during lunch, even in study hall, eyes followed him a little longer than usual. Some kids nodded when he passed. Others just watched, waiting to see if he'd do something else, like he was a fuse that had finally sparked. And everyone wanted to know if it would catch fire. He didn't. He walked the same path he always did, through the side gate, past the cracked water fountain, straight to his locker without stopping. He kept his hood up, not out of shame, but because it felt like armor. The kind that didn't clang or shine, but simply let him move through the world unseen when he needed to. But Tyler wasn't used to being unseen. All his life, he'd been the center of attention, the guy people leaned in to hear, the one coaches patted on the back, the student teachers called on when they wanted a good example. Now for the first time, he felt like the joke. And that stung worse than any shove. He tried to laugh it off at first. Told his friends it was no big deal, that he'd let the guy go easy, but the way his voice cracked when he said it gave him away. By lunch, even his usual crew was glancing at him sideways, like they weren't sure who to believe anymore. That afternoon, after practice, Tyler cornered one of the freshman linemen near the equipment shed. "You saw what happened, right?" he asked, voice low. "Tell me you saw me let him go." The freshman shrugged, eyes on his shoes. "I just saw you drop the phone, man." Tyler's jaw tightened. He didn't say anything else. But the seed had been planted, and it was growing thorns. Back in the locker room that day, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Most guys changed fast and left, but Tyler lingered, pacing near the benches like a caged animal. When the quiet kid finally walked in, alone as always, Tyler stepped into his path. "You think you're tough now?" he said, voice sharp enough to cut. "Because you twisted my wrist like some karate movie?" The kid didn't stop walking, didn't even slow down, just kept heading for his locker like Tyler was part of the scenery. That's when Tyler grabbed his shoulder. It wasn't a shove this time. It was a challenge. A dare wrapped in anger. The kid turned slowly. Not with fear, not with rage, just with a look that said, "You really don't know what you're doing, do you?" Tyler's face flushed. "What? You gonna show off again? Go ahead. Everyone's watching, but the locker room was empty except for them. No audience. No safety net of laughter. The kid exhaled, calm as ever. "I don't fight for show," he said. "And I don't start fights. But if you keep pushing, you're gonna learn something you didn't sign up for." Tyler scoffed, but his hand dropped from the kid's shoulder. "Whatever. You're all talk." The kid just nodded, opened his locker, and started changing. No drama, no threats. Just the quiet certainty of someone who knew his own limits. And the other guys. That night, something shifted inside Tyler. Not remorse, not yet, but a flicker of doubt. He'd always believed strength was about size, speed, volume. The loudest voice won. The biggest guy ruled. But this kid? He hadn't yelled, hadn't swung, hadn't even flinched. And yet Tyler felt smaller than he had in years. Meanwhile, the quiet kid went home, ate leftover stew with his grandma, and did his homework at the kitchen table under the soft yellow light. She asked how school was. He said fine. She didn't press. She knew better. She'd raised him to handle his business without making a scene. But later, when she was asleep, he sat on the back porch, staring at the stars through the branches of the old oak tree. He thought about his uncle's words. Most people confuse noise for power. Real power is quiet. It doesn't need to prove itself. Still, he knew Tyler wouldn't let it go, not yet. Pride doesn't dissolve overnight. Sure enough, the next week, Tyler started spreading rumors. Said the kid had lucky moves, that he must have cheated or got help from someone. He even challenged him to a real fight, man to man, no rules, behind the bleachers after school. He made sure half the football team heard him say it, but the kid didn't show up. Instead, the next day, he walked into the gym office and asked Mr. Ellis, the aging PE teacher with a bad knee and a heart of gold, if he could join the new self-defense elective. Mr. Ellis blinked. "You? You've never signed up for anything before." "I want to learn," the kid said simply. "And I want to do it the right way." Mr. Ellis studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Class starts Thursday. Don't be late, the class was small, just 6 students. A theater kid who'd been jumped on the bus last year, a girl who walked home alone every night, 2 seniors who just needed an easy credit, and a wrestler nursing a concussion. And him. From the first day he stood out. Not because he showed off, but because he listened. When Mr. Ellis demonstrated a basic wrist escape, the kid didn't rush. He watched, then practiced slowly over and over until the motion felt natural. When the theater kid struggled with balance, the quiet kid quietly showed him how to shift his weight without saying a word. Tyler heard about it, of course. He stood in the doorway during the 3rd session, arms crossed, watching like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. He saw the kid calmly guide the wrestler through a shoulder roll, his movements smooth and controlled. No ego, no flash, just skill, clean and quiet. For the first time, Tyler didn't smirk. He just watched, and something in his chest twisted. Not anger this time, but something closer to shame. After class, he lingered near the water fountain. When the kid walked by, Tyler didn't say anything. Just met his eyes for a second, long enough to see that there was no gloating there. "No, I told you so." Just calm. That night, Tyler didn't go to the usual hangout spot. He went home, sat on his bed, and stared at his reflection in the dark window. He thought about all the times he'd used his size to make others feel small. All the times he'd laughed while someone else picked up their spilled books or wiped blood from their lip. He didn't apologize. Not yet. But the armor he'd worn for so long, the one made of jokes and shoves and fake confidence, had cracked. And through that crack, something new was starting to grow. Back at the brick house on the east side, the quiet kid helped his grandma fold laundry, humming along to the old Motown song playing on the radio. He didn't know what Tyler was feeling. Didn't care, really. He wasn't doing this to win. He was doing it because it was right, and sometimes doing what's right, even quietly, changes everything. The self-defense class wasn't flashy. No punching bags hung from the ceiling. No dramatic music played in the background, just a worn-out gym mat, a whiteboard with smudged diagrams, and Mr. Ellis limping around in his old sneakers, calling out instructions like he was teaching someone how to change a tire. Practical, patient, no nonsense. But for the first time in a long while, the quiet kid felt like he belonged somewhere. He didn't talk much during class, but he didn't need to. His hands spoke for him, steady, precise, always moving with purpose. When Mr. Ellis showed how to break free from a chokehold, The kid didn't just mimic the motion. He studied it, tested it, adjusted his stance until it felt right in his bones. He'd practiced similar moves for years in his backyard, but now he was learning the why behind them, the angles, the leverage, the timing. It wasn't about hurting someone. It was about staying safe, about giving yourself a chance. The other students started looking to him for help, not because he demanded it, but because he never made them feel small for not knowing. When the theater kid fumbled a basic takedown drill, the quiet kid just said, "Try shifting your weight a little earlier," and showed him, slow, no rush. No eye rolls, no sighs, just kindness wrapped in quiet confidence. Word got around, not the kind that spreads through rumors or hallway gossip, but the quieter kind, the kind that builds trust. A freshman who'd been shoved into a locker last month started hanging near the gym door after school, just watching. A girl from the bus stop nodded at him in the hallway like they shared a secret. Even the school janitor, who'd seen him practicing alone late at night for years, gave him a knowing look and a thumbs up one afternoon. But the one person watching closest wasn't saying a word. Tyler stood near the gym entrance more often now, not inside the class. Never that, but just outside, leaning against the wall like he was waiting for someone. He didn't smirk anymore. Didn't crack jokes to his friends while staring through the glass panel in the door. He just watched. And the more he watched, the less sure he seemed of everything he'd believed before. He'd always thought strength meant domination, being the loudest, the fastest, the one who made others move out of your way. But this was different. The quiet kid never raised his voice, never threw a punch in anger, never even looked like he was trying to impress anyone. And yet, people respected him. Not out of fear, but because he earned it. One small act at a time. One Thursday, after class let out, Tyler finally stepped inside. The room was empty except for the quiet kid, who was rolling up the mats. Mr. Ellis had already left for a staff meeting. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Outside, the wind rattled the chain-link fence. "You really learned all that? Just from your uncle?" Tyler finally asked, voice quieter than usual. The kid paused, then nodded. "Started when I was 9. He said if I was going to walk home alone, I should know how to protect myself." Tyler shifted his weight. "And you never used it? Not even when I was messing with you?" The kid looked up, meeting his eyes. "My uncle said real discipline isn't about winning a fight. It's about knowing you don't have to." Tyler swallowed hard. He wanted to say something clever, something to save face, but nothing came. Instead, he blurted out, "Could you show me that wrist thing again? The one you did in the locker room?" The kid studied him for a beat. Not with suspicion, but with something like understanding. Then he set the mat down. "Only if you promise to do it right. No showing off. No trying it on someone else." Tyler nodded fast. Yeah, I promise." So the kid showed him. Step by step. How to grip. How to twist. How to use your body instead of your strength. Tyler fumbled at first, his movement stiff, his pride still tangled in his muscles. But the kid didn't laugh. Didn't rush him. Just corrected him gently like he was teaching a younger cousin how to tie their shoes. By the end of it, Tyler's face was red. Not from anger, but from something deeper. Humility, maybe. Or the first real crack in a wall he'd spent years building. The next day, something unexpected happened. During lunch, a group of sophomores were picking on a new kid, laughing at his accent, knocking his tray sideways. Normally, Tyler would have either joined in or walked past like it wasn't his problem. But this time he stopped. "Knock it off," he said, voice low but firm. They turned, surprised. "Since when do you care?" Tyler didn't answer, just stood there, arms crossed, until they backed off. He didn't say anything to the new kid either, just picked up the spilled apple and put it back on the tray before walking away. No one made a big deal of it, but people noticed. Meanwhile, the quiet kid kept showing up, to class, to practice, to the bus stop where he'd wait with his hood up and his earbuds in. He didn't act like anything had changed, because to him it hadn't. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just living the way his uncle taught him, with respect, with control, with quiet courage. But the ripple was spreading. More students signed up for the self-defense elective. Mr. Ellis had to ask for extra mats. The theater kid started walking taller. The girl from the bus stop brought her little brother to watch a demo. Even the principal stopped by one afternoon, nodding approvingly at how calm and focused the class was. And Tyler? He didn't join the class, not yet. but he stopped hanging with the guys who bragged about shoving freshmen into walls. He started sitting alone at lunch sometimes, staring out the window like he was thinking hard about something. One afternoon, as the quiet kid walked home, he passed the football field. Tyler was there alone, tossing a ball against the bleachers. Their eyes met for a second. No words, no gestures, just a look that said more than either of them could have put into speech. That night, the quiet kid sat on his porch again, listening to the crickets and the distant hum of traffic. His grandma brought him a slice of sweet potato pie, her way of saying she knew something was shifting even if she didn't ask. He didn't tell her about Tyler, didn't need to. She'd raised him to trust his instincts, to move with purpose, to never confuse silence with weakness, and right now, that silence was doing more than shouting ever could, because real change doesn't always come with a bang. Sometimes it starts with a single moment, a dropped phone, a calm voice, a hand showing another how to stand without falling. And from that moment, everything else begins to bend. Friday night lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across the Jefferson High football field. The stands were half full, parents in folding chairs, younger siblings chasing each other near the concession stand, the usual Friday energy humming in the air. The home team had just wrapped up a win, and the locker room echoed with laughter, clanging pads, and the sharp scent of sweat and antiseptic spray. But inside that familiar chaos, something tense was brewing. Tyler had been quiet all week, not his usual brooding tough guy quiet, but the kind that comes when someone's wrestling with themselves. He hadn't said much in the hallways, hadn't laughed at the usual jokes. Even his closest friends weren't sure what to make of him. And now, after the game, with adrenaline still pumping and pride running high, he made a choice that would change everything. He waited until most of the coaches had gone to the office for post-game review. Then as the locker room started to thin out, he called out. Not loud, but firm enough that everyone still inside turned to look. Hey. The quiet kid was at his locker, back to the room, pulling off his practice jersey. He didn't turn right away, just finished tucking his shirt into his bag, slow and deliberate, like he already knew what was coming. You think you're better than everyone now? Tyler said, stepping forward. His voice wasn't mocking this time. It was raw, frustrated, maybe even a little scared. You show up to that class like you're some kind of master and now people act like you're the hero? Like I'm the bad guy for just messing around? A few guys lingered near the benches, unsure whether to leave or stay. No one spoke. The air felt thick like before a storm breaks. The quiet kid finally turned. He didn't look angry. Didn't look smug. Just tired, like he'd been carrying this weight longer than anyone realized. I never said I was better, he said evenly. And I never called you the bad guy. Then why does everyone act like I'm the one who needs fixing? Tyler shot back, voice rising. Maybe, the kid said, calm as ever, because you're the only one still acting like this is a game. That hit harder than a shove. Tyler's face flushed. He glanced at his friends. Some looked away, others shifted uncomfortably. No one jumped in to back him up. For the first time, he was truly alone in this. He took a step closer, fists clenched at his sides. If you're so tough, prove it. Right here, no rules, just you and me. The challenge hung in the air like smoke. But the quiet kid didn't move toward him. Didn't square up. Instead, he took a breath and said something no one expected. I don't fight for show, but if you want to learn what real discipline looks like, I'll teach you. Right here. Right now. With rules. Silence. Then from the corner, one of Tyler's own teammates, usually the loudest one, pulled out his phone. Not to record for laughs, but almost reverently. You want a timer? He asked, voice low. The quiet kid nodded. 2 minutes. Controlled drill. No strikes. Just technique. Tyler stared at him, confused. You're gonna teach me? Yeah, the kid said. If you're willing to learn. Something in Tyler's posture shifted. The anger drained out of his shoulders, replaced by something uncertain, almost fragile. He nodded once. The quiet kid walked to the center of the open floor, cleared a space between the benches, and gestured for Tyler to step forward. We're gonna practice escaping a rear choke. Basic self-defense. You grab me from behind, I'll show you how to get out without hurting anyone. Tyler hesitated, then stepped in. He wrapped his arms loosely around the kid's chest from behind, mimicking the hold. Tighter, the kid said, but no pressure on the neck. Safety first, Tyler adjusted. The room was dead silent now. Even the guys who'd stayed just to watch were standing still, like they were witnessing something sacred. Okay, the kid said. Now if someone grabs you like this, your first move isn't to panic. It's to drop your weight, like this. He bent his knees slightly, making himself harder to lift. Then you trap their arm with your chin, here, and step back with your right foot to create space. He moved slowly, narrating each step like a teacher, not a rival. Now you reach up, grab their wrist, and peel it off like you're opening a door. Then pivot, turn into them, and create distance. He demonstrated it once smoothly, without force. Then he reset. Your turn. Try it on me. Tyler fumbled at first. His movements were stiff, his mind still tangled in pride. But the kid didn't sigh. Didn't roll his eyes. Just guided him through it again. Your elbow's too high. Drop it. Good. Now pivot. Yes, like that. On the third try, Tyler got it right. He broke free cleanly, breathing hard, eyes wide. Again, the kid said, and Tyler did. By the fifth time, something had changed. Not just in the room, but in Tyler. His shoulders weren't hunched in defense anymore. His jaw wasn't clenched. He was listening. Really listening. When the 2 minutes were up, the kid stepped back. That's it. You did good. Tyler just stood there, chest rising and falling, staring at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. One of the freshmen whispered, "That was actually kinda cool." Someone else chuckled nervously. Then another. Soon the tension broke, not with a fight, but with a shared moment of understanding. The quiet kid zipped up his bag. Self-defense isn't about beating someone, he said, looking at Tyler but speaking to everyone. It's about giving yourself a chance to walk away, with your dignity, and theirs. No one clapped. No one cheered. But the way people looked at him, and at Tyler, was different. As he walked out of the locker room, the night air cool against his skin, he didn't feel like a victor. He just felt relieved, like a knot inside him had finally loosened. Back inside, Tyler sat on the bench, head in his hands. One of his old friends sat beside him. "You okay, man?" Tyler nodded slowly. "I think I've been wrong about a lot of things." His friend didn't argue, just handed him a water bottle. "We all have." Later that night, the quiet kid sat on his porch again, the city lights flickering in the distance. His grandma brought him a mug of warm milk with a sprinkle of cinnamon, her old remedy for heavy hearts. He didn't tell her what happened. But she must have known. She just sat beside him in silence, her presence like a soft blanket on a cold night. Inside the house, the radio played an old Sam Cooke song, "A Change Is Gonna Come." And for the first time in a long while, it felt true, not because one fight was avoided, but because something deeper had shifted, not just in Tyler, not just in the locker room, but in the whole rhythm of the school. People started holding doors, stopping rumors before they spread, standing up not with fists but with words. And it all started with one kid who chose calm over chaos, teaching over taunting, and respect over revenge. No one made a video, no headlines, but in the quiet spaces between classes, in the way eyes met in the hallway, in the new kindness blooming where there used to be only noise, everyone could feel it. Change wasn't coming. It was already here,